Matthew continues, and laid it in his new tomb. That's Joseph's new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. Mark, and laid him in a sepulcher which was hewn out of a rock. No mention that it's Joseph's. Luke, and laid it in a sepulcher that was hewn in stone, wherein never man before was laid. Still, no mention that it's Joseph's. John, now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden was a new sepulcher, wherein was never man yet laid. They laid Jesus therefore, because of the Jews' preparation day, for the sepulcher was near at hand. John doesn't mention that it's Joseph's. Only Matthew does. In his own new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock. So I'll put his own and he had hewn, but the rest should be all four. And laid it. And laid him. Luke, and laid it. John. There laid they Jesus. I don't think I'd want to say they laid Jesus in there, because where Jesus actually is at this moment is kind of difficult to place, because it says afterwards, he preached to the captives. Some people say he was in hell, suffering for all the sins of the world. Others say no, he was in Abraham's bosom in paradise. Preaching to those captives. And those are the ones that he rose from the dead. But Jesus is clearly not in that body. That's just his dead body. So I'm not going to say Jesus was laid there in the tomb. I'm just going to say it was laid. There laid they. I guess I have to have the verse from John first, the fact that there was a sepulcher nearby. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulcher. Okay, that's where I have to add the word. Wherein was never man yet laid. Okay, I have to add, and in the garden, maybe his new sepulcher, his own new sepulcher. But Joseph isn't named anymore. Maybe I should just take Joseph's name from earlier and bring it down here. Actually, no, I think I can just add that from Matthew. His own, instead of just a. Matthew, his own. New is also Matthew. So that's purple now. But I think sepulcher is more repeated. Tomb in Matthew. Mark is sepulcher. Luke is sepulcher. And John is sepulcher. So Mark, Luke, John. Sepulcher. Wherein was never man yet laid. Which he had hewn out of the rock. So I'll put that first. Luke. That was hewn in stone. Okay, so Matthew and Luke have that it was hewn in stone. Does Mark say anything about this? Which was hewn. Okay, so I'll go with which from Matthew and Mark. Which, And just Matthew, he had hewn. Matthew, Mark, Luke, just the word hewn. Matthew, hewn out in the rock. Mark, hewn out of a rock. Luke, hewn in stone. Not John. Out is Matthew and Mark. In the rock or of a rock. Luke is in stone. Matthew and Luke have in, so I guess I'll go with that. And instead of just stone, both Matthew and Mark have rock, so I'll put rock. But the rock or a rock? In a rock. So I don't think in a rock makes sense. Of a rock would make sense, but not in a rock. So I'm going to go in the rock. The from Matthew. And rock is Matthew, Mark. I would have preferred to go with stone. I think that's more official. But majority witness, rock. Luke, wherein never man before was laid. Matthew doesn't have that never a man was laid there before. Mark doesn't have it either. Luke and John have that. Wherein never man before was laid. Or wherein was never man yet laid. Wherein never. Wherein was never. Wherein was. I'm going to go with the order of John. These words are all from Luke as well. Wherein was never man. And I'm going to go with before. Was never man before yet laid. Yeah, that seems like the simplest combination. Now in the place where he was crucified there was a garden, and in the garden his own new sepulchre which he had hewn out in the rock, wherein was never man before yet laid.